I had been in that lifestyle with the abuse,
Yeah.
and then I went to D.C. and I never really healed from it.
Yeah.
So I brought it into our marriage.
Never apologize for your passion. That's how God made you.
Right.
However, if there's things that you can do around your tone,
Right.
you can, be cognizant of your surroundings.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephenie.
And I'm Asbel.
And we want to welcome you to another episode on A Cup of Real.
Yeah.
And this one is going to be kind of a fun one.
Yeah, we're going to get a little bit. The last few have been a pretty heavy.
Intense.
But you know what? That's how life works.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's intense. Sometimes it's whatever. So
Yeah.
Today we just want to talk about something that's a little bit more, maybe a little lighter.
Lighter, maybe a little lighter. I was speaking at a healthcare conference for women it was this past Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I was talking about women today having emotional control, but I tied in triggers and I talked a lot. I focused more on triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And I brought up something and it just really resonated with a lot of the women. And so I'm going to tell the story and then you're going to kind of talk about it with me.
Of course.
But
I wasn't able to talk to you when you were speaking about it, but I am now.
Yeah. He was standing in the back. He flew in. Okay, let me just say this. He flew in from Boston because he'd been in meetings for work and doing all of these things. Was it a conference too?
No, it was visiting.
Okay.
Visiting
he was
client.
in meetings. So he flew to South Carolina to support me. It was very kind of you. And so I was talking about triggers and I told just a little bit of my story before I had met Asbel. My previous marriage had been abusive and I had learned to
like physically, emotionally, everything.
Emotionally, it was everything and above. And so, and I hadn't really talked about it until that podcast a few months ago. Someone asked me to share my story. That's the first time I've told my story.
And I learned a lot about it too on that story.
And then I just told a little bit at this healthcare conference with these women. And so I was talking about how I had learned to be quiet. I thought if you're ever been in an abusive environment, you will tell yourself, if I'll just be quiet, I'll just be good, I'll say the right things, he won't be abusive. So I learned how to walk on eggshells. Well, we went into our marriage 16 years ago, and we were in the beginnings of it all. Well, I'm married to Asbel here. He's Puerto Rican, and who talks very, very, very loud. And he doesn't need a microphone, and he's very animated. So his voice, he raises his voice a lot. Well, in the beginning, it freaked me out. I would kind of go into a shell. I'd get real quiet. I was walking on eggshells. I was scared. I'd go upstairs, or we were in a little apartment then, actually. And I'd go cry sometimes. Like, God, you got to help me. I was all scared about it because I didn't know how to handle it. He wasn't abusive, but the man who abused me would also raise his voice. So I was having a hard time
reconciling.
Yes. And so I was telling the women this, and it actually resonated with quite a few. They came and talked to me, and I think some of them went and talked to you. So we were going to talk about that, how sometimes a past traumatic experience can move you into something that you're in currently, and you can have a hard time telling the difference.
Yeah, and I think one of the ladies came up to me that I've known. She was Italian, so very similar culture, personalities. We all get loud or whatever. Yeah. And so if you follow, me on social media or whatever, you're going to kind of see the tenor of my heart. Mm-hmm. And she made a statement that was very resonating to me. And she said, Asbel has a soft heart with a loud voice.
Yes.
And I'm paraphrasing it. But I was like thinking, that's probably one of the most impactful statements that somebody's made because it literally describes me to a heart. Like
Absolutely.
I do have a loud voice when I get packed because I'm very passionate and I like to talk with my hands and we're just and all of us are like that. All my family, my siblings, we're all very loud. We're very boisterous. We can sit and we're talking or whatever and it gets really, 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 really loud and people are like, sometimes we'll be at a restaurant and we're talking and we get animated about something and people will start looking at us
and
like...
I'm convinced that they think we're in a huge argument.
We're fighting.
Because we get really loud, passionate about whatever we're talking about.
And then we tone it down real quick.
And I'm like, I think people think we're fighting because the people are looking at us, So that does happen even now. But we both had to go through counseling, but I had to go, Bonnie helped me because I was just falling apart.
Well, sometimes I'm not yelling at you. This is what or whatever. And so then I would start saying, see, she's trying to change me again. We talked about that or whatever. I'm like, you know what? But I had to begin to look and see, you know what? This is not all about you. Because I used to have those flippant comments like, well, that's their problem. I've been telling them I'm Puerto Rican, like this is what happened. But
this
sometimes,
is who I am.
Yeah, but it's a very selfish way of looking at things. Is there certain things that you need to do? So now I'm kind of aware. I don't ever apologize for my passion though. Yeah. I don't ever apologize for my passion. But I do have to to monitor my tone.
Well, and the thing that's changed with me is I have found my voice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'll just come right back now. I don't have a problem as much. Where before I would shrink back into the shadows. I was scared, all of that. But what's interesting is a few weeks ago I was watching an episode on a crime show, and the cops were trying to find the son. I just thought about this. The cops were trying to find the son of the father that they were interviewing, who he was like a serial killer. And the father, they grabbed the father, and he went, "Don't hit me, please, don't hit me." And he just freaked out. And one of the cops was like, his son is abusing him. Comes out, he had been beating his father. His father had this big gash of Band-Aid on it, and he made up a lie about it. He had all these scars on him, but his son had been abusing him. But how he reacted to the cop, and they didn't even do anything mean. They grabbed him like normal, and he just freaked out, almost started crying, said, "Please don't hit me." And he put his hands up like this. Well, it's kind of like that with you. Don't raise your voice, and you weren't doing anything.
Right. It was just the way I grew up. Like we grew up in it was just, it's the culture.
But my family's loud.
Yeah.
You've been around my family. My family can be loud too. Maybe not Puerto Rican loud, but they're loud. They're very opinionated.
Lots of opinions.
Our Christmas
Oh boy, and we have fun too.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. But I had been in that lifestyle with the abuse, and then I went to D.C. and I never really healed from it.
Yeah.
So I brought it into our marriage. So anyways,
It's those triggers.
Yeah.
And so it's like as you start working through it and you start figuring out, but even if it's not like anything to do with
it could
whatever,
be anything.
it's like you need to be cognizant around. So I'm very cognizant. I remember being in, when I was an executive at a large company, I remember getting a complaint.
About you?
Yes, that I was loud and yelling at the employees. and I laugh about it now because I'm thinking, huh? I remember when it first came to me, I was like, what? Like, that can't be right. And sure enough, it like somebody had made a complaint, and then investigating through it, but it was probably something similar. Like maybe they were going through something. And so I had to say, you know what, I need to be kind of cognizant of my tone. That's kind of where I really went on this journey to begin to learn that everybody communicates differently.
Yes.
And so I shouldn't expect people to morph to my communication style. So then I started to learn, okay, I needed to begin to learn how each employee communicated. So with some people, I could be very clear, because they wanted me to be brutally honest with them. That's the only way they received it. Then some, I would have to actually work around it.
Yeah.
And I would have to kind of set it up. I would, because they would drop at the cry of a hat. It didn't make them wrong. Is that they just, they received differently than most. And I'm like thinking, you know what? I can change me versus being that leader that says, well, suck it up, buttercups. This is the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
To me, that's a wrong type of a leader. And so that's literally where I began to learn. Had I not gotten that complaint, and at first I was offended by it, and I'm like thinking, what do you mean? And I just begin to understand, you know what? There maybe something's going on at home. Maybe there's something's differently. And this is what I was learning. I'd learned now I can kind of look at it when you were saying it through your own history. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
That was the same thing as I begin to learn that I can change my tone. I can work with my tone, or at least address it now when it happens. What is that point that says, oh, when do you know your passion has become a little too loud?
Well, and I was going to say the tone. Yeah. The tone is so important. And you and I both have an aversion to bullies.
Oh, yeah.
So I can smell them. I can spot them. Yeah, I mean, just...
When you've been bullied and whatever, you know a bully.
You know a bully.
You know a bully.
Yeah. And their tone isn't... Well, sometimes the tone can be flattery, though, too.
Yeah, and well, sometimes you have to be careful, too, that the bully doesn't become the bully.
The bully doesn't become the bully.
You know what I'm saying? So because you have to be careful too, because I can look back historically and say, maybe I was bullying too.
That's true.
To think through the product, because I was bullied. I'm like, nobody's ever going to do that, so I'm going to push back. And so I've had to work through that piece as well to make sure my passion isn't too loud, that it doesn't steer over into being bullied. And so that's why you have to have wise counsel in your life, people that I respect and trust. Give me that advice. Give me that feedback. I want to hear it.
Be willing to change.
And be willing to change.
Well, I think you told me one time at work, you were talking so loud in your office. You were on the call. And all the people in the cubicles could hear you. And I think
they would. I remember this was before my current executive assistant, Susanna, was originally my executive assistant, good Lord, probably 15, 16 years ago. And then she had to leave and go to D.C. because her husband was taken there. He was in the military. And then I remember I had an executive assistant that replaced her that Susanna found called Claire.
Yes,
and wonderful. I remember sometimes Claire would come in, knock on my door and say, you need to tone it down. And so because everybody could hear, she could hear me. Yeah. We're like whispering as well. So, but that's the point. And so I had people like that. But now, we're in a 100% remote office. So we have employees all over the nation.
So I hear
you. But
you
hear me.
And sometimes I am upstairs trying to work. And I can hear them all the way up there. So what I've been doing lately is I'll put on, it's called Dappy Keys. It's worship piano music, and it kind of helps drown out the sound. But I think next time if we ever move again...
Well, we are going to move again. I'm going to make sure my office is soundproof.
I was going to say that. I think soundproof would be really good, so I can focus on what I'm doing. Because sometimes I get distracted. I'm like listening, like, what's he upset about? But I know you're not upset. But
I'm just like naturally, and especially when I get really passionate, I start talking and getting loud. And by the time I think, man, I'm kind of hoarse. You've been talking too loud. It's like that preacher voice, when they're preaching and shouting the whole time. By the time your voice is stripped, I'm like thinking, I've just been shouting. I blame it on my dad. I'm going to say it's my dad because he was a preacher and he was a shouting preacher.
So you take after him.
So I'm like thinking, well, maybe that's what we take after. It really is cultural. It really is. Like Italians, Puerto Ricans, we're all the same. Like we're just loud and obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah, Italians, you all have that same. I couldn't agree more. But it was kind of funny when I brought it out. And then he was standing. He didn't know I was going to tell the story, but he was standing back there while I was speaking. And I was telling it. And I was like, I wonder what he's thinking right now because I just put him on the spot.
I just start laughing. It's fun. We've been talking about this a lot. And if you can't laugh at yourself,
you have to be able to laugh at yourself.
Like insecure, like this is who I am.
Yeah.
So I don't apologize for who I am. I remember my counselor saying, because I used to think, and they were like, never apologize for your passion. That's how God made you.
Right.
However, if there's things that you can do around your tone, you can, be cognizant of your surroundings. So now I am like that. Like I'm cognizant to not be loud in an area where we go into a nice restaurant and it's quiet. Well, then I'm going to kind of have my, for me to be obnoxious and loud and say, well, just everybody else get over it. That's selfish on my part.
It is.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm in a place where it's whatever. So it's like those type of things. That's why I get annoyed with others. Like I'm thinking, why are you talking on your phone in the middle of a quiet, like, do you have earbuds?
Yeah, put earbuds
And so
in.
Generally speaking, sometimes I whatever, and I remember being in a club in the airport one time and somebody was just talking or whatever, and I could tell everybody was looking around, and I'm like thinking, that's rude. So I'm like thinking, okay, God, give me wisdom, but I'm going to say something to them. And I walked up to them and I said, would you like to borrow some earbuds? Or maybe you have some earphones or whatever. And they kind of looked at me and I said, but we all can hear you. And then all of a sudden they put them in.
So they had them.
They had them.
Yeah. No.
And I do that even with Sierra because sometimes this generation, it's kind of weird to me. Like we're in this. Oh, and please don't get upset, but I think we're in a very selfish mentality right now that we just aren't observe.
But it's every
other
generation
people. Like sometimes I'll be on the phone and FaceTime with Sierra, and I've noticed she's talking to me on FaceTime, but she doesn't have her earphones in. I'm like, I'm not talking to you like this because other people. Oh, Dad, and I'm like, I really am not. So I'm going to hang up unless you put your earphones in.
Well, I don't think we need to know everybody's.
No. Well, number one is it's just rude to those people around you. Yeah. It's thinking they may be sitting, having a nice lunch. I get you're outside, but they really don't want to hear your conversation.
No. Well, some might. They might want to hear what you're going through.
Maybe they do.
No, but I agree with you. I was in TJ Maxx not long ago, and this lady, loud on speaker. You heard her and the person she was talking, and it was so, and everyone was just staring. And like, some people were like, "Oh my word!" And it was loud, and they were talking about someone. So it was horrible. It was like, remind me to always put my headphones in.
And me, I don't mind like going to people and being kind about it and just being clear as kind. Unclear is unkind. And
that's where I can't do that.
And so generally I don't have it like, but I won't do it like, can you please get off that phone? Like it's rude. That would be the old Asbel. Usually I'm just like, hey, would you like to borrow some earphones? Or maybe, do you have any earbuds or whatever? We all hear your conversation.
Maybe you should carry around some headphones, and just some extras. Just say, hey, here you go,
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. We told you it's going to be a little light this time because, but we all have triggers, we all have moments, and then what are we doing about them when we understand them?
Yeah.
Is there something that you can do cognizantly and make it humorous? We do make it humorous. Like, there you go again, you're being loud.
We've learned
we now know, like, okay, the Puerto Rican's coming out in you.
The Puerto Rican's coming out.
So it's just different ways like that that kind of give us a cue. Okay, you're probably being a little too loud.
Yeah.
Or what have you like that. So thank you for joining us for another episode of For Real.